Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio. Everyone's talking Roy Moore, and I get it. There's a problem with Roy Moore. He wouldn't have been my candidate to begin with in Alabama. But these conversations, these charges of sexual harassment, sexual impropriety, sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, they don't go unsaid. They have changed the focus of this race, a race that clearly would have been for the Republican. That was a little tougher with Roy Moore. Now is Roy Moore, based on the latest poll, down 12. Down 12 points. The question is, has anybody taken a look at the challenger? Right? We know these stories about Roy Moore, and people are judging whether or not they have validity or they don't, and there are three more accusers. People are talking about, for the Republicans, maybe they'll mount a write-in campaign. Maybe they'll write in Jeff Sessions' name, the Attorney General. Maybe they'll ask Richard Shelby to resign his seat in the Senate. He's from Alabama, and run for this seat so they can have a special election for the next one. It's all about the write-in candidate. But I'm taking a look at the Democrat who's running in this race, Doug Jones. And I'm asking, maybe both parties, maybe they both want a write-in candidate. Has anybody bothered to take a look at Doug Jones? Doug Jones is an attorney. Doug Jones is a guy who prides himself on being about civil rights. Okay, he's prosecuted members of the KKK. Sure. If they did something wrong, as opposed to you just not liking them, I don't like KKK members, they don't like me. But you only prosecute them if they've actually done something wrong, if they've actually tried to hurt or harm somebody else, take their property, etc. But take a look at his positions. Take a look at his website, Doug Jones for Senate, and I'm telling you, I didn't know they had socialists in Alabama. No one told me. I was left in the dark, and I think so is the rest of America. So focused on the Roy Moore stuff, they're not asking, well, what's the alternative? And the alternative is write-in candidate. It really and truly is. You take a look at this. You take a look at his website, and it's got his priorities. Doug Jones' priorities. Healthcare, we can't go backward. Oh, Lord, he's quoting Linda Sarsour. That was the first check for me. That was the, okay, I got to find somebody else. Why? I believe, it actually says, I believe, healthcare is a right, not a privilege, limited to the wealthy and those with jobs that provide coverage. This could have been written by Nancy Pelosi. This could have been written by Chuck Schumer. This is disqualifying from the start. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege, limited to the wealthy. Wow. That is talking points. That's not about bringing people together. That's not about working for the people of Alabama. That's about fear-mongering garbage. Is he now in favor of saving Obamacare? Or is he already saying he's with the Bernie Sanders contingent, the Bernie Sanders wing, which is the Democratic Party, and that he wants Medicare for all? He also says that no woman should be denied coverage of services based on the religious beliefs of her employer. Does that mean you believe that the employer, regardless of their religious beliefs, should have to provide contraceptive care and other things? Or does religious beliefs mean absolutely nothing to you whatsoever? That's a question for Doug Jones that no one's asking. I am not excusing Roy Moore. I have said many times I wouldn't vote for Roy Moore. Not my candidate. He wasn't my candidate before all this. He's not my candidate now. If Alabama had picked Mo Brooks, we're out of this whole problem as I see it. Let's go to the economy, where he discusses that the rich people need to pay their fair share. It's unconscionable to talk about lowering taxes on the wealthy while cutting funding for education, nutrition, childcare, housing, and infrastructure. Sounds familiar? And he also believes in the living wage. Again, completely disqualifying, if only because Doug Jones isn't smart enough to know there's no such thing as the living wage. The living wage isn't real. It doesn't exist. It is a myth, like the chupacabra, or like George Takei would just simply ask somebody out for a cup of coffee as opposed to going for the grab. These are myths that are not real. There's no such thing as the living wage. And let's get to the big one. Let's get to the big one here. Where was it? Oh, goodness gracious. Was it on the environment, where it's very clear that as he says, our unchecked use of fossil fuels for our planet and for our health have been clear for decades. Unchecked use. Has he not been paying attention? Or is it just good to throw that bit of hyperbole out into the world? Yeah, Doug Jones is not a worthwhile candidate. Doug Jones is not a worthwhile candidate for the people of Alabama. Sure, Roy Moore is not a guy who's going to get elected. I get it. Or he might get elected. There are still supporters out there. But people have an issue. Doug Jones, I'm sorry. It's disqualifying based on his ideas, which are based on old school Democratic leftist nonsense that cost them many elections already. I think Alabama needs that write-in candidate now more than ever. So get your pens there, Alabama. You're going to need them come Election Day. I'm Tony Katz.
We all have smartphones. There are